Welcome to the Early Edge Mega Preview presented by BetMGM. R.J. White here with me. We're going to break down every game on the NFL slate this week. Let's start with Thursday Night Football. Big divisional matchup here. San Francisco 49ers on the road in Seattle. Look like the market's still holding steady, 3.5. The total, though, we've seen a lot of movement up to 49.5. R.J., where are you at on this game?
I think you have the stronger plays on this one. The only thing I can really get to is the San Francisco team total going over. We see this Seattle defense. They had a lot of problems with stopping Jared Goff a few weeks ago when they were beat up. You know, he completed every single pass. They scored 42 points, and San Francisco has as talented an offense as Detroit does. And then Seattle's defense dealing with a lot of injuries. 3 guys out, another 3 are questionable. I know Mike McDonald had a lot of success against San Francisco last year with that Baltimore defense generating 5 turnovers and looking really dominant in that win. But I just think San Francisco is going to score a ton of points in this game. They have their own defensive issues, so you could get into a little bit of a shootout here, but they'll score as many as needed. So if I was going to play this, it'd be over 25.5 at -140, I believe is that at BetMGM, or you can shop around and get over 26.5 at a little bit better price too.
And Mike, you've got an official play or 2 on this game, right? Hi, what's up?
Yeah, I've got two official plays on this one. Look, I'm with RJ in liking San Francisco. So my 2 plays, you got to like the over for San Francisco's team total here. But it's San Francisco -3.5, and then the Seahawks team total under 23.5. This is a difficult spot for Seattle. When you look at them, this is their 3rd game in 11 days, now against a divisional opponent. And then San Francisco, it's truly a must-win game. If they don't win this, they will be favored to miss the playoffs and will be in a massive hole in the division and got a very tough schedule coming up. But when I look at Seattle, I don't think they're that good defensively. They've struggled in some of these matchups, allowing yards and points. I think San Francisco is still one of the best teams in the league. I have them 4th overall in terms of net EPA per drive, which indicates you're a solid team on both sides of the football. So I like the 49ers here -3.5, and I like Seattle's team total under 23.5.
Yeah, I think I'd lean towards the Niners as well. If you want to take Narrative Street, they got a little bulletin board material courtesy of DK Metcalf, who, kind of out of nowhere this week came out and he's like, their defense kind of sucks. He's like, I'm going to do whatever I want against their defense. It's like, bro, you do I don't know, maybe handle your business against the Giants first, like the bad Giants defense, and then run your mouth about the 49ers defense. It seemed a little questionable to me. It is, it's not like an easy spot for San Francisco, but you're right. I mean, this team is sort of just blowing these leads and needs to have a really complete game. And you saw those head-to-head matchups between Seattle and San Francisco last 5 outings. Kyle Shanahan just sort of has the number of some of these teams in the division. It feels like I think he gets that number again this evening. We got another AFC West team that's right in the mix there for that division. The Arizona Cardinals in a fun shootout potential matchup against the Packers. We will tell you about our best bets for that game coming up next on the Early Edge. Welcome back to the Early Edge NFL Week 6 pick show. Will Brinson, Mike McClure, and R.J. White breaking down every single game on the slate for you with our best bets. And we get the longest day of professional football in the history of the league last week, thanks to a London game and a 85-minute delay of Sunday Night Football. Well, I mean, it might not happen again this week, but we're getting a full day's worth, and we're going back to London. The Jaguars are at the Bears. Or versus the Bears. I don't know, which doesn't really matter. They're playing at Tottenham at Hotspur Stadium. And Bears are favored by 2 here with a total of 44.5. I have a official pick here, an official play on the under 44.5. I think when you kind of look back at these games at Tottenham, it seems like it's a little bit of a slower track. We saw last week, I think, 40 total points, or maybe 40 total points, between the Vikings and the Jets. And that included a 63-yard pick six, as well as Aaron Rodgers maybe playing a little bit faster than he wanted. I think in these play callers for Jacksonville and Chicago, you have 2 guys that are sort of willing to be a little bit vanilla. And, Bears defense strong. Jaguars defense can pressure a little bit. I think we see a lot of runs in this one and a low scoring game. Last year, Bills and Jaguars also went, and look at this, 8-0 to the under the past 8 games. 35.1 points per game. Jaguars and Bills went under last year, and it was like 11-7 or something, or 13-7 going into the fourth quarter. So I like the under a lot in this spot. Mike, do you have a lean on this game?
This one's tough for me here because my computer leans slightly to Chicago, and I've got a very aggressive rating on Chicago, and it's because their defense. I have them as a top 4 defense in the NFL, and it's really carried them, put them in great spots. But the Jags, look, this Jags team is nowhere near as bad as their record indicates. They've had a number of games that they should have won, and they've clearly got the talent. But to me, it's really about the home field, and I say home field. This is a familiar situation. The transatlantic flight is very familiar to this Jags team. So despite my computer having the number at Bears -2, -2.5, I would be inclined to look at the Jags, and I think they're a fine teaser candidate as well, just considering some of the things you discussed with the under. We expect a more competitive game. So if I had to play anything here, it would be Jaguars or nothing, and likely Jaguars as a teaser leg.
All right. Should get some more points in the Cardinals and Packers game that we mentioned before. This is fun, man. I mean, Jordan Love and all those weapons that they have. Christian Watson still probably not back. Dontavian Wicks needs to find his hands, but if he does, maybe we could see the Packers score plenty here. Packers -5, RJ, with a total of 47.5. You got to play here.
Yeah, I like the favorite. I'm taking the Packers laying the points. You have to keep an eye on potential windy, rainy weather, but this line looks too light for what I think is a pretty good Packers team with a good home field advantage. Green Bay's offense top 5 in net yards per pass and yards per rush. A bad Arizona defense shouldn't offer much resistance on the road here. That Arizona team coming off a big upset in San Francisco. It's a typical flat spot for a below average team off beating an elite division rival like that. We saw the Rams, weren't able to cover in their next game there in a similar situation. My only concern is Green Bay's defense. They've been boom or bust. They create a lot of turnovers, but they get burned. So I'm a little bit worried about a backdoor cover here, but I'm just gonna play my instincts and say this line should be 7 and not 5. So I have Green Bay as a best bet.
I've got a play here on the over, but I'm going to, caveat it with the weather, right? I don't think you need to take it now because I don't think this total is going to go flying up into the 50s or anything like that. And, weather's tough to judge, even this close, even like a few days out, right? And it does look like there is some wind that is maybe picking up in the afternoon in Green Bay. And so if that's the case, and if you're getting rain, be cautious on taking this over. So maybe wait closer to Sunday to take it and be sure that the weather is there. But as RJ points out, this is a Green Bay defense that can give up some big plays, and Arizona is very capable of an explosive play here or there. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride back, led the team in targets last week. Michael Wilson led them in yards, and they've got plenty of weapons for Kyler Murray. And if I think it could easily turn into a track meet. Packers, you saw it against the Rams. They can score very easily. A lot of weapons for them as well. So I like the over, weather dependent. Mike, you have a lean on Green Bay, right?
Yeah, it's a lean to Green Bay. Also lean to the over if the weather looks decent enough. I think the total should be 49, but it's really the Packers here. I like RJ. I think the number should be 7. The home field advantage, definitely one of the better ones in the NFL, but it's really about the Cardinals. This team is terrible defensively against the pass, 29th in EPA per passing play. That's significant to me because that's where Jordan Love is going to thrive, especially if he gets any of the weapons back. I also think Josh Jacobs is sneaky good in this particular matchup. So give me Green Bay here -5.
All right, heading to the AFC South. Oh man, Will Levis and Joe Flacco. Maybe Joe Flacco. We'll see. Maybe we'll see. Either way, Will Levis is involved, which makes for an exciting game, or at the very least, a chance to text Pete Prisco and taunt him for saying that Levis is going to be an MVP candidate this year. The Titans are -2.5, and the total here 43. RJ, you're going to package one of these teams in a teaser.
Yeah, I'm teasing the Colts up to +8.5. I mean, this has a caveat. We have to see what the injury report looks like. We know Michael Pittman's going to miss the game. Now Josh Downs still missing practice. Jonathan Taylor still missing practice. And we'll see about Anthony Richardson. I mean, that line moved a couple points with Michael Pittman's announcement of the injury. I don't know if it should, because if Anthony Richardson's back, he was basically invisible in the offense the first 2 weeks. So I don't know that he makes that much of a difference if Anthony Richardson's under center. The key, I think, is having Taylor back and not putting everything on Richardson's shoulders. So we're going to monitor the Indy practice reports here. And if they're good, we want to get this plus 8.5 as a teaser, or plus 8, or, if it moves down a little bit. If guys start getting ruled out, it's going to move up anyway. So you're not going to want to tease this line. But Tennessee's defense 31st in turnover percentage. So I don't know if they're going to take advantage of Richardson's miscues. Indy's defense 9th, so they can take advantage of Levis's miscues. So it might be a sneaky game where the Indy defense shows up and Tennessee has trouble covering a number as favorites.
Yeah, Mike, I'm wondering how for you, when you look at the number and the injury report and what it, how does the quarterback situation specifically affect how you would play this game?
Yeah, it definitely has some impact, but I think that, as RJ kind of alluded to, without Michael Pittman, I don't know that it's going to matter all that much. If Flacco were playing quarterback, you'd like to see Michael Pittman out there, and you'd have some more confidence in their ability in the passing game. And where that would help is just the scenario that they fall behind, right? If they fall behind with Richardson, they're typically going to be in trouble. I'm not playing anything here. If I had to, again, it would be like RJ, a teaser leg with the Colts up to 8.5 is likely the strongest look. I could get to an under if you're getting 43.5 or 44. I could find my way to an under in that particular spot. The market doesn't seem to agree. It's opened at 41.5, has been bet up to 43, starting to see 43s out there, 43.5s. So at 44, it is for sure and a buy on the under.
Yeah. The one fear about anything with the Titans or the under, again, is Will Levis. Like, the dude is giving away points to the other team repeatedly this year. The Patriots made the big, bold move of, I kind of ripped him for it. I wrote about it on CBSSports.com, but I don't know. You're like, we're going to ease Drake May in. We're going to, play Jacoby Brissett, and then, randomly pull the ripcord with the Texans coming to town. At least in good news, RJ, the Texans aren't the highest quarterback pressure percentage team in the entire NFL. Oh, wait, they are. Have fun with that, Drake May, with, a banged up offensive line. What's your play on this one?
I like the under here. I'm under 38 points. It's possible May is talented enough to spark this offense. We just don't know. Maybe he's awesome and he's going to carry this team, but he's going to be playing behind an awful offensive line against a strong defense that just held Josh Allen to 9 completions on 30 attempts. If they can do that to Josh Allen, what are they going to do to this guy with his limited weapons? The Houston offensive ceiling lowers, though, with Nico Collins out and Mixon maybe not back yet. We'll see. A good New England defense can limit them at home, especially if May is playing well. You figured they would up their play to kind of match, try to steal a win here. So you look at the final score on 38, it needs to be something like 23-16 to get the over to cash. And that feels like a lot for how these offenses look right now with the injuries on the Houston side and just the complete, destruction of the New England offensive line and a rookie now taking over. So I like under 38.
Yeah, and I think there's a pretty good chance Joe Mixon back at practice. If he plays, they could just give him the rock 30 times in this game and dare Drake May in that offense to beat them. Mike, do you have a lean on this game?
It would be with RJ. It would be the under here. I know it's enticing to potentially grab the 7 with the Patriots, but until I've seen a little action from Drake May, which frankly, speaking on that, why would you not play him last week against Miami? That was a perfect opportunity to get to look at him. So a little confusing for me. I'm just completely staying away from this one.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can't stress enough. The Texans have the highest quarterback pressure percentage in the league and are only 5th or 6th in terms of blitzing. So again, good luck with that, Drake May. All right, coming up, Commanders Ravens, incredible matchup. Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson. I mean, don't even try to come for this Sunday Night Football. This is ours. We will tell you what the best bet in that game is coming up next on the Early Edge. Welcome back to the Early Edge Week 6 NFL Pick Show. Will Brinson, Mike McClure, and R.J. White giving you best bets for every single game on what is really, quite frankly, a fantastic slate. 2 weeks of lots of offense in a row. Don't know if we're going to get quite as much out of the New Orleans Saints this week with Derek Carr now out, expected to be out for some time. Spencer Rattler time, I guess. Bucks -3.5 at the Saints with a total of 41.5. RJ, rough sledding for the Saints here after just an incredible first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, we're going to take their team total under 19.5. Rattler gets a start, as you said, against Todd Bowles. That's never good for a young quarterback, especially making his first start, especially against an offensive line that has major issues with the injuries. But the play at tackle and then in the interior with McCoy hurt, Ruiz has been hurt, has injuries at all the skill positions too. You look at the Wednesday practice report and Kamara's missing, Shaheed's missing, Taysom Hill's missing. So it's just like every position is dealing with injuries. I don't know how they're getting the 20 points, especially when this defense is getting healthier. Elijah Cansey practiced in full. He could be ready to go. Antoine Winfield limited to start the week. He could be back for the first time in a while. Could be the closest to having that unit whole as they've been all year. My only worry with Tampa is that if they are not totally focused, of course, we had that terrible hurricane come through their community. You've seen in those situations where, you don't know what's going on. You're trying to coordinate things with people and you're not totally focused on the game in front of you. But to me, that's not enough reason to lay off here with the Bulls versus Rattler matchup and the offensive line issues for New Orleans.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously not, the hurricane was not good that we came through, but it did seem like at least the impact was maybe a little bit less than what it was, anticipating right before it. So that's good. But thoughts and prayers to everybody in Tampa and of course in Western North Carolina as well. Look, I mean, we talked about our dynasty league. I picked up Spencer Rattler. That's how bad my team is somehow. Like I had to add Spencer Rattler off waivers. I don't think that I'm going to be starting him because I don't think that he's going to do a whole lot, and wouldn't be surprised at all if the Bucs rolled here. This offense. We can talk about the quarterback all we want, but the reality is when they lost multiple interior offensive linemen, including center Eric McCoy, and it cratered their offense. And that's just how it's been for the Saints. And that's been the case. That's the case with a lot of NFL teams when you lose multiple starting offensive linemen. So I would lean Bucs here. How about you, Mike?
I have a little optimism on the Saints side. I would play the Saints at 4 or 4.5. And frankly, I think it probably gets there on Sunday. And when it does, I'll have that decision to make. But there's no reason to go grab it right now because it's only moving one way. Now, when I look at this particular situation, if they happen to get Taysom Hill back there, I don't know that it's going to happen at this point. But if they did, that would change things a lot because if they are able to move the ball at all between the 20s, I do think Taysom Hill is good enough in the 40 and N to at least have them put points on the board, whether it be touchdowns or field goals. Now, I know you don't win games in the NFL by kicking field goals, but this is a game on their home field in division that it's a matchup that's still familiar. They've still got okay secondary pieces, especially to try to clamp down on Mike Evans and really make them kind of dink and dunk the ball, which I think is going to be the game plan. So I will be buying on the Saints at 4 or 4.5. It will not be fun. But I do have a little optimism around Spencer Rattler. He's got some mobility, and I do believe that he will ultimately hold a job in the NFL as a starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about playing any Mike Evans props, just remember that Marshawn Lattimore is out there, and there's a 75% chance that one or both of them get ejected for fighting. It happens like every freaking year with those two. They hate each other. It's awesome. Eagles hosting the Cleveland Browns. Stinky Cleveland Browns. Eagles are -9 here with a total of 43. I mean, I gotta be honest, like I have starting to get a strong lean towards Philly. It's a massive number. Underdogs have been great with these big numbers, but you look at, what's happening with the Eagles offense in terms of the injury report, and it's fantastic news. Lane Johnson is expected back. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, both full practices, and the splits for any Eagles quarterback with Lane Johnson on or off the field are pretty remarkable. He's just a difference maker. So I think I'm starting to lean Eagles here. RJ, how about you?
Everybody's on with you because this line just keeps going up. 9.5 in the market now. For the Vegas contest I'm in, they gave us 10 as the line to pick against. And I don't know, man, this Philly defense profile as a team you're going to trust laying this many points when you can get backdoored, in any sense. I mean, I don't think they can stop a lot of people. I know Cleveland hasn't moved the ball at all, but, maybe they get a little bit healthier on offense, particularly the offensive line. We'll see. Nick Chubb, what if he returns to give the offense a spark? You typically don't affix a high value on a running back when you're talking about spreads, but Nick Chubb means something to that team, and they can change how they play with him. So with Philly's defense bottom 5 in turnover rate and percentage drives ending in the score, I think Cleveland has a little sneaky offensive upside here. I would lean to the over in this game if I'm playing in this game, because I just can't lay this many points with a defense that hasn't played well. But even if they do play well and Cleveland doesn't, score a ton of points, if it's like 30-16, you're still hitting the over. So that's going to be my angle on this game, is if I play it, it's going to be the over.
Yeah, I leaned to the Eagles side. I made the number 9, and frankly, I'm glad that I don't have an edge on it because I don't want to play it. The more interesting question to me was like, I was asking myself, what number would I feel comfortable playing the Browns at? And it's definitely not until 11 that I'm even considering it, and I still don't feel great there. So lean to the Eagles pretty heavily still, but not going to play it. Is this the week we see Jameis Winston take over at halftime?
Yeah.
Possibly. If so, they're live for a backdoor cover in that situation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I mean, like, anytime you fade the Browns moving forward, you have to be aware that Jameis might come in and just Jameis it up, which could mean like taking a 10-point game into going way over, like somehow, or just like coming in the back door. So yeah, absolutely, Cleveland live for that. All right, the gem of the week: Commanders Ravens on CBS. Ravens are -6.5 with a robust 51.5 point total here at M&T Bank Stadium Sunday, 1:00. Watch it on CBS. RJ, did I mention this on CBS? Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, it says it all, right? I mean, incredible matchup here.
Huge matchup. And what's interesting is that even with Washington playing as well as they did last week, this line didn't budge off the look ahead. It stayed at 6.5. When you figure Washington's been taking all this money and high stock and moving their lines down, this one didn't. That kind of tells you how good Baltimore is. This is a big stepping up in class after a run of bad defenses, which I will include Cleveland in that, it turns out. Daniel's going to need to win this game with his arm. Is Baltimore's defense number 1 in yards per rush? Baltimore's offense elite in both pass and run, even with Washington's defense improving. They're 30th in yards per rush. Could be a huge game for Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the run game. Washington dominated last week, but that line didn't move. Like I said, I think we're at peak Washington value here. Play for me is to fade that. So my best bet is Baltimore -6.5. I think this one should be on the other side of 7.
I'm mostly in line there. I lean Baltimore, made the number 7, lean over the total. I do think Washington is good enough to move the ball and score a bit, but definitely a step up in class. I think we have to remember that Baltimore is one of the best teams in the NFL still, if not the best. They were the best team most of last season as well, just ran into Patrick Mahomes in a tough game in that AFC title game. But to me, Baltimore is elite here. The only way I could play it on a side would be to lay it with Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore could easily be 5-0 at this point. I mean, they're like a heel away, and then that dumb loss to the Raiders that just didn't need to happen. I should note that I think I saw Derrick Henry's like -320 anytime touchdown in this game. That is, I think, how is that real? Like, that's like double like Christian McCaffrey last year. It's insane. All right, another fantastic game. This time between two NFC contenders, the Cowboys and the Lions. Profiles as a possible shootout. Will CeeDee Lamb finally have that explosion game, or will the Lions running backs take over? We will tell you which way to go in that game coming up next on the Early Edge. Welcome back to the Early Edge NFL Pick Show for Week 6. Will Brinson, Mike McClure, and R.J. White breaking down every game on the slate. We told you about some of the shootout potential in a few of these games. Well, not every game profiles that way. Chargers at the Broncos. The Chargers -3 here with a total of 36, and I'm going to do the not fun thing and take an under on a really low total as one of my best bets. We've seen what Sean Payton wants this offense to be with Bo Nix, and it's that short passing game, lots of dump offs to running backs, use maybe a little designed runs as well. And then Jim Harbaugh likes to pound the rock, and I think with all the offensive line injuries they've had, even coming off that bye week, you could see the Chargers still continue that trend and try to run the football. Denver's defense, night and day from last year to this year. I think they're like top 5 in various metrics. And I just don't think we're going to see many points here. Wouldn't shock me at all if it was like 13-9 was the final, RJ. Any interest on a side or total here for you?
Yeah, now that it's at 3, I love the Denver side here. Chargers expected to be healthier off the bye, but Denver's improved over the last few weeks, so this line feels wrong to me. The Chargers had one good offensive day versus an awful Carolina defense. As you mentioned, the Broncos defense, second in net yards per pass, seventh in yards per rush, third in scoring efficiency. Even if Bo Nix regresses, I think this game could be a matchup of two mediocre offenses with two former Oregon quarterbacks against two really good defenses. And I want to catch points with the home dog in that sense. So if you're only seeing 2.5s at some point, I would love teasing this. This was originally going to be in my teaser. Once it popped to 3 at MGM, Denver had to be the play it for me at +3 because I think Chargers are still being overvalued by the market here.
Yeah, an interesting twist here, Mike, is that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead with your
you're good. I just right there with you, RJ, on this one. It would be Broncos +2.5 in a teaser. Pretty heavy lean at 3. The Chargers, they're fine. They're good defensively. Do not deserve to be laying a full field goal on the road in division. So Denver or nothing here for me.
Yeah, and I was going to say the twist here is that Bo Nix and Justin Herbert played each other in college, 2019, which is just wild that happened 5 years ago. And here they are matching up again in a divisional matchup. Another scorcher of a total. Steelers at the Raiders, 35.5 here for the total. Steelers are favored by 2.5. We know Aiden O'Connell is going to start for the Raiders this week. Okay, sure, whatever. I don't really have a great lean on this game, to be perfectly honest. I think the Steelers, with their defense, I would probably give them the edge. So if I had to pick something, it'd probably be Steelers, but it feels kind of crazy to have, like a Justin Fields on the road as a favorite like this, RJ.
Yeah, 3-point road favorite. I mean, that's not a situation where I want to be taking Pittsburgh against anyone. I do agree with this line more than I do the last one we talked about in terms of a 3-point road favorite here, because I don't think the Raiders are improving like the Broncos are. I doubt O'Connell sparks the offense, but I just don't see how you lay points with this Pittsburgh offense on the road against anyone. Their defense is also taking a step back the last 2 weeks as injuries have piled up. That Dallas game should have been a blowout. I know Dallas had to kind of gut it out in the end, but statistically they dominated that game and the score didn't reflect that. So I'm not sure I can get to backing the Raiders offense without Devontae Adams. May consider Pittsburgh's team total under 19.5 if I don't play the +3 or if we get a +3.5, but otherwise just staying away from this game.
Yeah, I've got to stay away from it as well. On the surface, it looks like one where I could get to an ugly over anytime you've got a number below 37 where you could get home in a 20-17 kind of game. Maybe Aiden O'Connell comes in and sparks the offense a little bit, but Pittsburgh's too good defensively, especially in the red zone, that I don't think it's going to get there. So not going to even really recommend a lean in this one. There's just nothing to love about either side here.
Yeah. Talking about that game is like, I don't know. Going to this next one, quite a diametrically opposed set of games here. Lions at the Cowboys. Cowboys home dogs. Lions -3 on the road here with a total of 52. Man, I kind of like the Lions here. I think the Cowboys just have some problems. I don't love laying the road chalk, but I'm going to take the Lions as a best bet. I think Detroit, sort of like what Dallas wants to do. They'll probably be able to pass against them, but just the injuries that they've piled up on both sides of the ball, I think Detroit's a more complete team indoors again, and Jared Goff should be able to have a field day with his offensive line completely able to stifle this Dallas defense and throw the ball all over the place. RJ, do you have a lean in this game?
Well, this line looks like it's trending toward 3.5. And if it gets to 3.5, I'm seriously going to have to consider the Cowboys. I mean, Detroit was -3 in Arizona in week 3. And isn't Dallas better even with their defensive line injuries, since Arizona's defense is pretty bad too? Dallas coming off back-to-back road wins. And like I said, dominated that game against Pittsburgh, outgained them 445 yards to 226. But turnovers made the game closer than it was. So you're counting on the Lions defense to generate some turnovers where they haven't been great at that in secondary. Their defense gave up 516 yards in a game before the bye. Unless they fix their defensive issues, I think Dak can go out and win this game. So we'll see if I can get 3.5. And if I do, I'm going to probably be playing the home dog again here.
Yep, I'm right there with you, RJ. 3.5 is a buy on the Cowboys side, believe it or not. Look, I know it's the Lions team coming off the bye. They should have some success running the football. But when I look at Dallas, I personally think Dallas is just going to abandon the run here and throw, and I think they're going to have some success. I think the key piece for Dallas, we obviously know CeeDee Lamb, he's going to get his, but it's having Jake Ferguson over the middle of the field. That helps Dak a ton, and I think that that's going to be the difference here. And then the great equalizer, of course, Brandon Aubrey from 65 yards in perfect conditions just automatically helps. I know you don't win by kicking field goals, but that's how you stay relevant in games like this and ultimately cover spreads as 3.5-point underdogs. So I would lean pretty heavily to Dallas if you find 3.5.
Nothing like the square guy taking the road chalk and then immediately having the two sharp guys explain why you want to take the dog. And like literally as you guys were doing that, my dog woke up and like walked in and started staring at me. So I'm like, I'm petrified of this pick on the Lions now. Falcons -6 at the Panthers. Dare I say this game could be fun? The total is 47 down in Charlotte. Should be pretty nice weather. It feels very fallish here. A little crisp, cool air in North Carolina this week. I'm going to go with a player prop as a best bet here, and it's Drake London anytime touchdown. It's about plus 120, so it's plus money. The Panthers defense, I don't know if it's the worst in the NFL. I don't, definitively, but it is definitively bottom 5. If they have nobody healthy from the start of the season, they can't stop anyone. I think the Falcons will run a ton, and we'll see. Like, I would love a Bijan Robinson anytime touchdown, but it's minus 180 or so. And I just think we'll see Drake London, who's had 30-plus targets the last 3 weeks, I think maybe even 34 targets the last 3 weeks, get involved just like Jamar Chase was for the Bengals when they played Carolina and find the end zone here. So I'm going to go with a player prop for a best bet. What say you, RJ?
Yeah, the good news there is that Panthers can't stop anyone in the red zone. I think they're now at 14 out of 16 touchdowns allowed on drives into the red zone. Just their defense is a train wreck. And Atlanta got 550 yards last Thursday. So you would expect a big game from the Atlanta offense. My lean is still going to be the home dog here just because I think this line is a little high. And Carolina has had a competitive offense. Atlanta only had 4 offensive touchdowns coming into that game last Thursday. So there's a chance we see more field goals from them than anticipated. Keeps this game a little closer. They've also played for their first 5 games at home, and a quirk of the schedule makes the team look a little bit better than they probably are. On the net neutral situation, it gets their value inflated a bit. So against the team with the functional D, like I would be all over this. If we're getting a team with a defense, like say, I know Denver wouldn't be 6 in this game, but if it was like a team with Denver, I would consider that a really good play. But a team with no defense at all, I think the play here's the over. So like Carolina +6, look for the 6.5s. My best bet's going to be over 47 because it just seems like a game where a lot of points could be scored.
Yeah, I think this is actually a great sneaky DFS stack as well because you could see both running backs have success. Mike, do you have a lean on the side of the total here?
I'd be right there with you guys on the over. If I'm looking side, I do have some interest in Atlanta in the first quarter. I know that that's a bet I usually reserve for college football, but you can get Atlanta -1.5 in the first quarter. I feel pretty good about them at a bare minimum working their way into field goal range. And I do think that Carolina will get better throughout the game, not be at their best in the opening drive or two. So if I were to play this one on a spread side, it would be the Falcons -1.5 in the first quarter. I feel pretty good about them putting points on the board in the opening frame.
All right. Sunday Night Football. This matchup is, I think it's a pretty good matchup. I wouldn't have said that maybe 2 weeks ago. Daniel Jones has been playing some good football. It's going to be, both these defenses are probably pretty bad. I think we could see a ton of points potentially on Sunday night with the Bengals -3.5 in New York playing the Giants, RJ, with a total of 48.
I've been all over home dogs all show. This is the week for home dogs. I think there might be 10 road favorites this week. But one road favorite I do like is Cincinnati. Giants just seem to be at peak value right now, off a big win against a beat up defense. Cincinnati's defense has gotten healthier. They couldn't contain Baltimore at all, but most teams can't. Their offense looks elite. Joe Burrow had an amazing game last week. They've had 105 points in the last 3 games. If Neighbors trends back, this line is going to get to 3. It was already trending that way. Now that we're getting a little more pessimistic on his outlook, it seems like now everybody's dealing up flat, -110 on the 3.5s. I think a bigger injury to worry about is the Kayvon Thibodeau injury. The Giants' strength is up front, and not having him, I think Cincy just goes out and scores 30 plus again. So the only way I don't play Cincy -3 is if it just doesn't come to fruition, and then I'm playing the 3.5. So I'm going to lock in -3.5 as a best bet here. I think this line should be probably 5, maybe even a little bit higher. But I'm going to hold out hope that we can get a 3 at some point.
Yeah, I think the argument for the Kayvon versus Neighbors thing is basically like the Bengals aren't going to stop anybody. That Bengals defense isn't good, and it's not going to get better. I think it's not. I don't think it's Lou Anarumo's fault. I just think injuries and sort of offseason attrition have led to this defense being unable to slow people down. And I think Daniel Jones, maybe it's just Wan'Dale Robinson and Theo Johnson and Darius Slayton. I think he can get it done against this defense. And I don't see really any problem for Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense either. So I would lean towards the over here. I would anticipate maybe you get a little bit of a line drop if Neighbors trends out or is ruled out earlier than expected. But I would guess that they'll probably take that up till Sunday. Mike, what say you on a lean for the side or total here?
I'll lean to the Cincy side. As far as the Neighbors situation, if he sits, the line goes to 4. If he plays, it goes to 3, is basically what I think is going to happen here. If it goes to 3, I'll be on the Bengals side. The number should be 4, 4.5. When I look at this matchup, though, I also want to isolate player props. They're not out yet, but Jamar Chase. Tell me who on the Giants is tackling Jamar Chase in open field. Nobody. He's going to have yards after the catch. I love his yardage over in this game, but will be a pretty healthy lean to the Bengals here with the road chalk.
Yeah, I can go ahead and tell you that on the Sunday night pregame show, which you can watch on the SportsLine YouTube channel, we will be laddering Jamar Chase against the New York Giants in that game. Okay, Monday Night Football. Nothing going on with the New York Jets lately, is there? No drama involving Aaron Rodgers and allegations and coaches fired and, oh man. Josh Allen coming off a terrible game. Can he bounce back? We will tell you the best bets for Monday Night Football coming up next on the Early Edge. Welcome back to the Early Edge NFL Pick Show, Week 6. Will Brinson, Mike McClure, and R.J. White. Just one game left. The Bills and the Jets playing for first place in the AFC East. Both coaches must be thrilled. Oh, wait, Mike. The Jets fired their coach after losing in London to the Vikings, despite being like one game out of first place. And man, I mean, now you have the news officially that Todd Downing is going to take over as offensive coordinator or play caller, for Nathaniel Hackett. So there's like some drama there. I'm curious, how do you think the movement, like the overall shift here in both, the play caller and Robert Saleh being out and Jed Ulrich being promoted to interim head coach, how that sort of changes your outlook for the Jets, whether it's betting on them, like week to week or over the course of the season, just in terms of like what you'd look at for futures?
I think it can only go one direction. I think it can only be a positive at this point, especially when you've got a guy like Aaron Rodgers. If you were talking about a young quarterback, a rookie quarterback, something like that, then yeah, I think it could have a negative impact. But Aaron Rodgers has played the game long enough and played the game at a high level, and just the way he operates, he still is making adjustments at the line of scrimmage frequently anyway. I think it's positive only in terms of the impact on this game, and particularly with Aaron Rodgers, especially in this game in prime time. That's where he loves to play. He loves to perform. And if there's any player in the league that you want to be interested in having a better performance in a spot where it's like, aha, I got you, prove you wrong kind of spot. I know he wasn't vocal about not necessarily liking Robert Saleh, but I think if you watched, it was pretty clear that they certainly weren't best friends. I think that this is only a positive for the Jets side.
Yeah, we'll see if the Jets defense can continue to have continuity, because they're playing really well under Ulbrich. So we'll see if he can keep that going. And then now it's on the offense to respond to Downing and to see how they perform. It's really interesting that this firing happens when you really just want to win away from being in first place, because you go out and beat the Bills. You have the tiebreaker against the Bills. But this situation, oddly enough, kind of reminds me of the Raiders last year. And I say oddly because McDaniels and Saleh probably couldn't be two more different coaches. But, you get a guy in there there, that's the interim coach that the players really like. And they go on a bit of a run. He finished last year with a winning record as the interim coach. So maybe the Jets can follow that type of success here that they had with Antonio Pierce in Vegas and do the same thing and run off and have everybody that bet their division futures and Super Bowl futures to feel like they're live in January, because right now last few weeks that offense has not looked good at all.
Well, if you're those people who bet on the the futures for the Jets and you're thinking, hey, this is awesome, don't go look at Todd Downing's record as an offensive coordinator. He's been an OC 3 times, most recently in 2022 with the Titans when his team ranked 28th in points scored and 30th in yards. So yeah, that's not great. And really didn't have success with the Raiders this single season, or it was middling the year before with Tennessee. So just, yeah, I don't know. It's all very bizarre. It feels like it's ownership driven. We'll see how it works out. But I think, to Mike's point, Aaron Rodgers being accused by basically everyone of getting Saleh fired is exactly the type of thing that will piss off Aaron Rodgers enough where he'll play great for at least a couple of weeks. Will he play great on Monday night? I kind of think this is a pretty good spot for him. Mike, what say you?
Yeah, I think it's a great spot for them. I think they've got a great defense. I think Buffalo's vulnerable to the run. We haven't seen great results from the two running backs in the Jets necessarily, but we know that they're talented. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, and just a home field. So like I was kind of saying, if there's one guy I want to bet on in a spite spot, it's certainly Aaron Rodgers here. So I like the Jets in this game. I'm going to be playing them on the money line. I have also played their team total over at 19.5. It's bouncing between 19.5 and 20.5, but the fact that you can get home with a 20-point performance, I like that here. I know the total's just sitting at 41, but I feel pretty good about 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals out of this Jets team against the Bills. And really on the other side, you talk about some of the injuries, whether it's Cook and Shakur, or how about Josh Allen? He's not officially in the concussion protocol, but I am pretty sure he himself is in the concussion protocol after what we saw last week. So for me, it's Jets or nothing here. And I happen to like them on the money line and team total over.
I think it's Jets or nothing as well. I'm putting them as the second half of my teaser, getting them up to 8.5. Their defense has been elite since the loss to San Francisco. They're now number 1 in net yards per pass. And you have that the weather-aided game against Denver helps out some of that, but they've been playing awesome. They're allowing 4.3 yards per play. The Buffalo offense, like you mentioned, they were terrible without Khalil Shakir. The thought coming into the season was they don't have a number 1 receiver, and it turns out he's their number 1 receiver because you take him out of that offense, and it just not going anywhere. Allen going 9 for 30 as a passer. Now he's facing a tough defense on the road in prime time. I don't know how you make him favored in that spot, just because the Jets are going through a little turmoil here. It is also the 3rd straight road game for the Bills, having to go at Baltimore, at Houston. This is the 3rd leg of that juggernaut schedule. Lost those last 2 in ugly fashion. Even if the Houston score was close, we talked about the Allen's performance in that game. It was pretty ugly. So I think the only way you look is the Jets. I'd like teasing them up to plus 8.5. Would take them at plus 3 if that's available. I think you could also lean to the Buffalo team total under 21.5 as well, expecting that Jets defense to show up.
Worth noting here, too, that the Bills, according to Next Gen Stats, dead last in the NFL in blitz percentage, which means we're probably going to see a lot less of Breece Hall having to stay in the backfield, which means Aaron Rodgers is going to get to throw those short little dump offs that he loves, and could be a nice spot for Breece Hall receptions to get back on that, or receiving yards. I lean towards the Jets here as well. Yeah, dead cat bounce game. You got to go with it. RJ, very quickly, do you have a Week 7 look-ahead line people should jump on now?
Yeah, I like going with the Rams -4. They're playing the Raiders. They could be healthier coming out of the bye, may get Cooper Kupp back. But even if not, that passing offenses look pretty solid with guys like Atwell, Whittington, Parkinson getting it done. And their top corner returned last week against Green Bay from a long-term injury. He's going to be a lot healthier and better coming out of this bye, probably facing an offense without Devontae Adams in it. Vegas lost by double digits to the Chargers, Panthers, and Broncos. I don't think they're in the same league, even a shorthanded Rams team. So even though Rams aren't going to have the home field advantage of this game against the Raiders, I think you look the Rams here.
All right. You want more winners? Of course you want more winners. And you can get them at sportsline.com. Go to sportsline.com/join. Use promo code WINNERS, and you will get 60% off an annual plan while you're on your computer or on your phone. Go ahead and subscribe to The Early Edge, a daily sports line betting podcast every day, 10 a.m. Fantastic show. And, of course, this show as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week.